Oh boy, it's Q&A time. These are usually pretty fun, can get a little wacky and wild. It's your first time ever checking me out. You know what you should do? You should smash the subscribe button and follow me on Twitter. And why do you want to follow me on Twitter at least? Because when I ask for questions for these Q&A videos in the future, you could actually send yours in, #AskJeff, and I'll use the best ones on these Q&As. Let's go ahead and get started though. Dane the Funky Homo Sapien asks, any tattoos besides the one on your arm? Any plans for more? You really want me to say there's a tat on my ass, don't you? No, I just have the one garbage-looking MJ tat. Looks like a prison tat from over 2 decades ago. It's the only one. I'd always planned on doing a Walter one on the left arm, and I've gotten to the point now I'm be 40 in a couple of weeks. Like, is it too late for me to get one, or do I get one? Like, who knows? We'll see what happens in 5 years, see if I have a whole bunch of tats or not. At Bear Down Rue, when are you going to start doing proper title screens? When you agree to go get your COVID vaccine. You see what I did there, Chad? And I'm still trying to figure out how that happens. Like, I'm just probably going to have to start taking pictures and uploading the thumbnail manually. Because when the video is processing, Chad, I'll sit there and it doesn't show me any of that. It looks perfectly fine, I swear to God. Because if it didn't, I wouldn't put it out. And then something happens, like when it goes to YouTube, it looks like, I don't know. Ibrahim Rao. If the Bears were a competent franchise, would you not rant every now and then of how they botched the Soldier Field renovations back in the early 2000s? Oh no, I would still rant about it. Because it's not just about the team, it's not just about the football, it's about the hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for being able to host Final Fours, Super Bowls, WrestleManias, other big major events that the city of Chicago loses out on because they were stupid and the McCaskies were cheap. So they would still get that rant even if they were winning championships. At Dave G123_456, best fast food place you've ever been to and the worst one you've been to. I'll take a different spin on this. Fast food place that I miss the most is Beefaroo. I used to love Beefaroo. Don't knock me. But y'all that live in Illinois probably know what I'm talking about. Worst one I've been to, most overrated one I've ever been to by far is Five Guys. Five Guys is expensive as hell, and I've never gotten what the big deal was. Let's see here. At Master Havoc asked, I've got one. Good. Should they cancel all of the student loan debt or some of it? Well, if you're going to do it, it should be both on public and private, like on loans given by the Fed and then also for private student loans. Because a lot of times folks got out of the Fed loans and went to do consolidations via private. And even when you talk just about canceling debt, student loan debt, it still doesn't deal with the issue of how do you fix this in the future? Such as if the federal government's giving student loans, there should be no interest. You're borrowing from the taxpayers and then charging interest, and then it's burying the populace. Like, that should not happen. Let's be clear. That should not happen. I certainly think there is a lot of value and a lot of benefit long term to canceling $50,000 of student loan debt for everybody. Because you're talking about an economic stimulus. You're talking about people that could take that hundreds of dollars a month more that they invest in having to pay back student loans that they still can't get out from and being able to reinvest that money in other areas of the economy. I mean, if we're going to leverage the national debt, I'd rather do it for that than big business and wealthy tax cuts. Biden should have already signed an executive order to at least do 10 or 20,000 of it as a good faith effort. Because that would have gotten, a couple million people out of it entirely. If he did 20,000, it would get me entirely out of it. It would have benefits to people's credit. It would free up hundreds of dollars a month when you think about long-term and kind of normal BAU operations for people. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to, other than selfishness or, hey, I used to be homeless. I used to starve. I used to not always have something to eat. That doesn't mean that I want that to be the basic standard of life that everybody else has to deal with. That doesn't mean I'm disrespecting the fact that, hey, these people that paid in and actually paid it off, like they should get some one-time big massive stimulus check or one-time massive tax credit to compensate them for doing things the right way, and they were able to do it. I applaud them for doing it. But that doesn't mean we stand in the way of larger progress for everybody. At Chicago Bears Rocks, which quarterback would free agents prefer to play for, Wilson or Watson? I have a feeling it might be Deshaun. I really do. I think it's Deshaun. At Jhawk54, can you elaborate on your issues with the Woodrow Wilson presidency? Most of his criticism stems from his endorsement of the film Birth of a Nation. According to his biographer, A. Scott Berg, the quotes attributed to him were found 20 years after the viewing. Well, first, let's say that Woodrow Wilson was one of the champions of lost cause revisionism. He was a historian. So to sit there and act like he wasn't proud of Birth of a Nation, or he didn't endorse Birth of a Nation, he did screen it in the White House. But let's also be clear. There are many, many other things that are wrong with Woodrow Wilson and what his legacy is and what his presidency was about. I have tweeted about him. I could go on for hours on here about it. You can look up my Twitter feed and see some of those specific things. You could talk about how he was really the birthplace of international Wilsonianism, which both Democrats and Republicans you hear referred to as neoconservatism and other things. But, it's him, that empire building, that imperialism, that wanting to meddle in foreign affairs and spreading democracy all over the world. I could go on and on and on and on and on. It is not just about the fact that he screened Birth of a Nation in the White House. That's just one of many bad things. And for some reason, it's weird. Like, people want to sit there and say, well, him segregating or resegregating the federal government wasn't that big of a deal. That was a huge fucking deal. He took Jim Crow and brought it to the federal government. That is not anything that any president should be praised for or proud of or look as one of their redeeming qualities of their presidency. There's so many things. He's one of the worst presidents of all time, and I'd argue the worst. And you can say, well, he had impact, he had significance. Yes, you could be impactful and significant and be terrible. See Hitler, see Stalin, see Mussolini. I could go on and on and on. You get what I'm saying? Like, you have impact and significance, and that impact and significance is really, really bad. At NCyple99, who is a true America's team? Is it the Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots, hell, even the Washington football team? I like how you didn't throw the Cowboys in there. It probably is Dallas, though. The numbers suggest they get the most viewership, highest viewership, whenever they have a game that's in a featured or primetime slot. We don't have to like it, but numbers talk, and the numbers suggest it's the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are pounded and forced by the NFL, similar to how John Cena was with the WWE. And that's what the Cowboys are. They're the NFL's equivalent of John Cena. They're a prop. So you prop them up in a spot where you pretend like they're great. You prop them up in a spot where nobody else ever has a chance to become bigger than them. So you always have the defense of, well, the Cowboys are bigger than anybody else. Well, you never give other teams that are actually great at a given time the chance to outshine them and go over them. Then, of course, the Cowboys are always going to be at the top. But you manufacture it that way. You prop them up that way. At Altizer Caleb, do you think Watson gets traded before the draft, or do you think the Texans continue to stay committed to not trading him? I think they're going to dig their heels in for the long term. I don't think he gets traded. At Raider Nation 203, let's do a live NFL draft mock show. Oh, yeah. He said in his Macho Man voice. With who? With you? You want me to do a live mock draft with you? And I need you to clarify on Twitter what you mean by that. Illogical reasoning. Would you rather run a pro sports team, work for a wrestling company, work in entertainment, or be president of the United States? Run a pro sports team. Why would I want to be president of the United States? There'd be no privacy. No matter what you do, somebody's always going to bitch at you about something. Like, who the fuck wants that in their life? Joseph Moran, did you ever go to parties or do any crazy shit while in high school? Very limited in high school. Those next 3 to 5 years after high school, though, different story. But in high school, not so much. At Chevrolet _Z28, what do you think the Chargers should do outside of offensive line and corner and free agency in the draft? Build around Justin Herbert. So it means more offensive line, so be it. Means another running back? Yes. If it means another wide receiver? Yes. Another tight end? Yes. Build around Herbert. At Spenny P19, here, Spencer. How does Ted Phillips still have a job? I wish the Caskies would hold people accountable. I can't stand when fans keep saying Bears football needs to come back. Well, see, Spencer, Bean Counting Ted here, and you got to understand that Bears football has been very profitable for us. Like, we don't have to go above and beyond in the expenditures, but the revenue stays pretty solid and consistent. Top notch in the league. Sorry, I have a piece of bologna in there in my throat. I have a job because the McCaskies are incompetent. They're incompetent, if I'm being honest, as football people and as business people. And I bailed them out of some really bad financial straits about 30 years ago. And they're proud of that renovation job. I know some haters will say that it looks like a UFO took a shit in the Roman Colosseum, but I think it's a blending of old and new, and it's fantastic. And we got it for pennies on the dollar. What were we going to do? Put a roof on it? There. That help you, Spencer? At Football Icon, given the Bears front office, what will the Bears do with the quarterback situation? Trade for Wilson or Watson, bring in Smith, or do a round two Glennon Trubisky situation where they draft a QB while having Foles be the temporary starter to begin the season? I really don't know at this point. I really don't know. It could go in any of those directions. That's what's weird about it. At Gabriel, 96-66, 80-08. How likely do you think the Cowboys get the Dak deal done? Ooh, I want to say 50-50 right now. I wonder if they're going to try and run out the string another year and say, hey, Dak, you got to prove that you're coming back from that leg injury 100%. They could get it done, but I could also see them not getting it done. Joseph Moran, why do people think LeBron is the GOAT? Recency bias and misinformed. And you get enough people in the media like Nick Wright and others who it benefits them greatly to pump up modern players and pump up a LeBron as much as humanly possible, that they think that, well, these people are on TV, it must be true, and it absolutely isn't. There's just very little to back that up. Like from an NBA standpoint, Jordan is the GOAT. If you want to go old school, you want to say truly the most dominant player relative to their peers of all time was Wilt Chamberlain, you have an argument there. If you want to take entirety of basketball career from high school, college to the pros, then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the GOAT. LeBron's not the GOAT, and we really need to stop there. We can appreciate him as an all-time great player, an icon of the league, and acknowledge the fact that he's not the GOAT. That's okay. At Harrison Len, the NFL MVP has pretty much turned into the best QB award. Is there anything the league can do so that other position players have a realistic chance to win MVP? I think it's similar to the Heisman. Like, most years it is going to be a quarterback award, and the reality is, you know, the quarterback position only grows in its importance and significance. So it's going to be hard to really be able to do much about that. At the Thomas O'Brien, who do you actually think would be the Patriots' best fit at quarterback if they draft one? It might be Mac Jones. I think it'd probably be Mac Jones. At Groovy_Woody, going into the 2021 season, what coaches and GMs will be on the hot seat? Well, certainly if they don't get a big deal done for a Wilson or a Watson, you got to assume Pace and Nagy are going to be an incredibly warm seat. In Cincinnati, if Zach Taylor doesn't show significant progress with Burrow in 2021, Zach Taylor is certainly on the hot seat. Vic Fangio in Denver is probably on the hot seat already. If the Cowboys don't make the playoffs this upcoming season, Mike McCarthy is going to find himself on a really, really hot seat. Who else? Mike Zimmer in Minnesota is probably going to be on a pretty warm seat. Pete Carroll in Seattle could be on a warm seat. There's others too. I don't have time. Those are a few. At Detroit Johnson, what made you start doing the whole WWE Breakfast Club bit in your wrestling videos? Why aren't you asking this on the Otera Central channel? That's where we talk about professional wrestling. I try to keep these two channels somewhat divested, somewhat different. Some of these people don't care about pro wrestling. Or they maybe cared about it in the past, but they don't care about it now. The Breakfast Club, it just felt right. It just felt right. And there was also the reports of how they used to gather every Sunday morning to eat breakfast together, so I started calling them the Breakfast Club. There you go. Nick asks, which current player in this upcoming NFL draft is rising on your mock board in the last few months? Well, you've been looking at my mocks. Elijah Vera Tucker, I think, has been one that's slowly risen in the ranks. Kyle Pitts has been another one that's risen in the ranks. Mac Jones has certainly risen in the ranks. Those are a few guys that I can think of off the top of my head. Adam Williams, will you be watching Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters or HBO Max? I like the assumptiveness. ABC, always be closing. Always be closing. But what the fuck makes you think I'm going to watch that video on either way? Who says I'm going to watch it at all? John Jones, do you think teams should try to trade for Julio Jones? By the way, love your videos. You're one of my favorite YouTubers. You know why? Because you're a smart, intelligent man that loves football. That's why. Should teams try to trade for Julio Jones? I'd have to look deeper at like what the cap impacts would be. But let's say Atlanta had a bad, rough start to this year under Arthur Smith. Should the Falcons potentially be considering that? Yeah. If you're a championship contender and you're saying, hey, we think Julio puts us over the top, then yeah. I think you certainly should. At Caught Tag 2016, what do the Bears need to do to bring a Super Bowl trophy back to Chicago? It all begins and ends with getting a franchise-level quarterback. Until they do that, they won't do that. Whether that's via trade or whether that's via the draft at this point in time. While my personal preference would be to draft the guy at 21, 22 years of age and potentially have him for a decade and a half or two, if it ends up being a trade, then so fucking be it. But you have to get that guy, because until they get that guy, nothing else matters. Josh Grantham 7, say the Bears don't exist. Who's your team? I don't know. And I never really think about it. Because that's like a dream, a fantasy. But I'm too far in now. I'm not afforded that luxury of thought of that. I'm stuck. Excuse me. At BPEF00, who are your favorites for NBA, MVP, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Rookie of the Year at the All-Star break? A little bit of bias here, but I think Billy Donovan's done a really good job with the Bulls, so I certainly think he's in the Coach of the Year consideration. Rookie of the Year's got to be LaMelo Ball, doesn't it? Defensive Player, I don't know yet. MVP, I don't know yet. I don't know. Ask me in another month or so. At Sash Daddy 2, if you were team president for the Bears, who would you target first for head coach and general manager? The first thing I would do is I would make a call to Ozzie Newsome. I would tell him, I will get McCaskey approvals. I don't care if that means I need to kick the cobwebs off Virginia's cunt, like whatever it takes. Ozzie, I want you to come in and I want you to build a championship level organization. I'm going to step aside, let you take over total autonomy of the football operations, and you hire your general manager and your head coach. That's what I do. I tell him, I'll make you the highest paid team president in the league by a wide margin. Like, this is a chance to really build, future generational wealth for you and your family. This is a chance for you to cement your legacy as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, football executives of all time. Like, that's what I would do. That's just me, though. Samela Sulo asks, do you think NFL QB salaries are getting out of control? Should there be a cap on QB salaries? These QB salaries are going to get over $40 million a year, and that's insane. I mean, it's based off of the premium of the position and the importance of the position. Is it insane that guys that are so critically important to their teams command 20% of the team's salary cap space? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, is it a little tough when you say, hey, when a big star in the NBA gets paid $40 million a year, they're taking up 40% of their team's salary cap. But there you only have to field a team of 15 players? Here you got to field a team of 53? This is kind of one of these things where I wish that we had some type of exemption in place where you had one player on every team that you could pay as much as you want. And they didn't count against the salary cap. For a lot of teams, that would be the quarterback position. Maybe not in every case, but a lot of them. Like if you're the Packers, for example, and Aaron Rodgers wanted $60 million a year, would you really object to it if you said, hey, it doesn't count against the salary cap? You're probably on board for it. So I don't think they're getting out of control. But it does create a thing of like, hey, if one player is going to take up a fifth of your salary cap space, like you got to get creative and you got to be able to find other ways to build around them. At Wilson GTS 12, do you shit? If this was the Wrestling Channel, I would respond to you, Justin, and say, sure, but probably not as much as a Bailey or a Sasha Banks, because you know them bitches, boo, boo. Them's the ones you walk into the bathroom and afterwards, you're like, oh, goddamn! You spray all the air freshener and potpourri in the world, it ain't fixing that. At LaMickey James 2, how many more years do you think Shaq could have played at a high level if he took care of himself? Kind of sad how a legend went out like that, in my opinion. Maybe 2 to 3 more at a really high level. But by the time you're really thinking about him, it was kind of falling off a little bit. He was already, 32, 33. You start talking about like 2004 and after. Like, this is a guy that was already 32, 33 years old. Like, yeah, if he'd have kept himself in a little bit better shape, he probably could have had another 2 years maybe of truly Shaq-level play, but wasn't going to be much more. At Darth_score Minshew. Why do people harp on Mac Jones? I thought pocket passer statues were almost extinct. Yeah, and every time we think that, then we see a Tom Brady win another Super Bowl. Fair question. The evaluation piece for Mac is going to be, do you think he's similar to Tua? Do you think he just benefited from talent around him even more than Tua? Do you think he's better than Tua? Like, does he really have the arm talent? When you talk about decision-making and field vision and accuracy, like he's got it, but does he have true arm talent? Does he have enough to make those big-time throws? Does he have the improvisation ability when things break down around him? Like, these are valid questions you're going to have to ask about Mac Jones in your evaluation of him. At Kudakris, excuse me, because I'm going to get to his question this time, but you'll notice, Kuda, that I made you wait 22 minutes for me to get to it. It's what you get when you ask me this type of foolishness. You can tell Chase Oliver I said so. You ignored my question last time. You're lucky I didn't do it this time. That's why you had to wait 22 minutes. So I present a new one. Your thoughts on potentially passing up Carson Wentz for a better QB who dons 11? Acknowledge me. You want an acknowledgement of number 11? Here's an acknowledgement of number 11. Right here. Right here for you, Kuda. The fuck, Alex Smith. Don't make me vomit in my mouth. Ugh. 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 At Bears Football _. Oh, this ought to be good. How on earth are you opposed to obtaining a Hall of Fame type quarterback, but okay with trading for Minshew for a cheap pick? You have referenced this, or gambling on a rookie. Oh. The piece about Minshew is in reference to, like, do I really want Pace making the next quarterback decision for this organization? I wanted him and Nagy both gone. I wanted a fire sale, a house cleaning. Now, do I really want them potentially damning the next administration? Like, that's part of the process here. And I believe that was said in reference specifically to the Deshaun Watson deal. Because I said, if you have to give up so much to trade for Deshaun Watson, then why do you let the guy that passed on him in the draft have the chance to trade away the future for Deshaun when the guy he should have just drafted in the first place? You know what I mean? So that's more about the Minshew. It's not me saying Minshew's a long-term answer. It's not saying that would be an ideal choice. It's saying, like, it's a temporary way to bring in somebody. It doesn't cost you much, and it doesn't allow Pace to damn the organization long-term. Gambling on a rookie, like everything's a gamble. There's no guarantee that you trade for a big-name veteran and elite franchise-level guy and they come in and play the same level. You have no guarantee of that at all. Or you could, and they do, but then you get a shit ton of injuries around them, or you run into other buzzsaws of teams, and you still never win a championship. Everything's a gamble. Let's be clear. If you're giving up 2 to 3 first-round picks for trade for somebody else's franchise quarterback, there's a lot of inherent risk there. Like, once you bring that quarterback in, how the fuck do you build around them? So everything is a gamble. You just got to figure out what your risk appetite is and what you are comfortable with and what you're not. At Trent Gaspard, what's harder to find? Competent management for the Texans or Ray Lewis's white suit? Woo! We've been looking for Ray Lewis's white suit longer, so the search remains. It's got to be him. At NFL Buff Coleman, why do you think Virginia McCaskey and George McCaskey like Ryan Pace so much? Is it just because he's handsome? It's probably because she finds him really pretty and cute. he reminds me of a young George or a young Michael. He's pretty boy, Ryan Pace, and he smiles a lot. He's probably done some good things in terms of, like, within the organization, not things that actually manifest on the football field, but the types of things that the McCaskey family would think look really good and make their jobs easier or make them feel better about things, take some of the pressure off of them. So yeah, it's something like that. And I think part of it is they just don't like to make decisions related to football because they don't know football. And they don't care to know football. And they never will know football. So Ryan Pace makes them feel just good enough about themselves where they don't have to make tough decisions. I think that's what it is. So, hey, what the hell? I got through every single question. This one went a little longer than I thought, but we got through all the questions. So thank you, everybody, who submitted your questions for this Q&A. Probably do another one here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. Smash the subscribe button and follow me on Twitter. I'm out.